How can I collect better data on my beneficiaries, on my target market, on the group that I serve for the purpose of strengthening my grant applications? Well, collecting quality data on your beneficiaries is one of the most powerful tools that grant writers have. Okay, without data, grant writing is extremely difficult and becomes very soft. Today, I'm going to share 3 things that will be helpful for your program management or your evaluation teams to help you collect more data. There's also in the description a link to 7 additional tips to help you collect better data. I'm Benjamin Dean from grantgetting.com. I hope you enjoy this video and others like it on the channel that are aimed at helping you get more grants. Number 1, direct engagement with beneficiaries. So what is the connection between the beneficiary and the organization, the nonprofit, that would allow the beneficiary to freely provide additional information that may or may not be required, depending on how you put it out there? That is called trust. Trust is the thing that grantors do not have with beneficiaries because they do not know them, they do not know each other. There is not an easy way for funders to intervene and say, you know what, we have a prerogative to collect information about the changes that are happening in the community because of the interventions that we fund. We're going to go ahead and start surveying beneficiaries themselves. That doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen because of trust. Beneficiaries, people, human beings, they trust those people that are the ones assisting them, and that is typically a community-based organization or a nonprofit organization. So you have the opportunity, nonprofits have the opportunity to really screw that up or really make it a positive thing for the community. And this is maybe one of the most artful elements in my experience in nonprofit program management and program evaluation is how you manage data collection, especially in, let's say, underserved areas where folks may have more of a skepticism to providing additional information, or may have truly been taken advantage of before, or been asked to fill out forms multiple times because of disorganization on behalf of the community-based organization. So engaging directly with beneficiaries is number 1. Third-party data, trying to piece together outcomes or outcomes and impacts on direct program interventions is really hard without first-party data. You're gonna have to get your hands in there and collect information to be able to report on anything, grant reporting, let alone on having information to provide in a grant application itself. So it's important to go straight to the source and have a system in place to be able to do that. Your beneficiaries are the people to tell you what is working and what is not. They are the people to tell you what the needs are in the community. This means that creating surveys is important, doing interviews, in-depth interviews, focus groups. These interventions are extremely important, and you need to be able to ask the right questions. So you can ask about their experiences, you can ask about their needs, and you can ask about the changes that they have seen as a result of your program or as a result of other programs if you're looking to start a new one. Engaging beneficiaries directly not only gives you valuable data, but it also, if done correctly, can make them feel involved in shaping the program's direction. Okay, that's a real thing. So one of the strategies that I've seen work is to create an advisory group, and that advisory group is consisting of many people that are beneficiaries of a particular program that can provide feedback to program design or program management on how it's working, what is liked, what isn't. It's a consistent feedback loop that you can get. So in any given population, my experience is you're always going to have 5 to 10% of people that really want to give you feedback. Maybe more, but at least 5 to 10%, which means if you serve 100 people, you've got 5 or 10 people in that group that really want to give you feedback. Now, you're going to be getting that same type of person if this is the only intervention you do, which is to say, who wants to come give us feedback, and you let people self-select into that opportunity, you're going to have some skewed information. It's better than no information, but it's going to be slightly skewed. You can control for that with more lower barrier surveys. But if you can get a group of people that are consistent clients, that are generally representative of the identifiable groups, demographic groups in your population, and you can get them to participate on a call once a month or a meeting once every couple months, where you've got a set of 10 questions and you're making sure that everybody's engaged in a conversation, you're recording it, you're taking notes, that is going to give you a tremendous amount of feedback on your programs and your activities. Okay, and that's real trust building work that you're doing there. Okay, ask if, for example, if you are serving children, don't be afraid to ask permission to talk to the children directly. Okay, always ask for permission. But if you have a youth program, don't be only, in the place of going to the parents or going to the guardians or going to the teachers. You're going to get some great information, but that's something I've seen missed many times is kids, even as young as 6 or 7, they can provide you really direct information that will help you improve your program. Okay, so you have interventions in order to collect information on the needs of the community. You have, surveys and questions being asked in order to ascertain the success of a particular program. You have surveys going out to discuss the change in behavior, the change in knowledge, right? You have multiple reasons for doing it. But the main thing that ties all these surveys and interviews together is trust. And so this is the main point that I would have, is that your program team needs to have top of mind, what value are we adding in reciprocation for this survey, for this ask that we have of the community. It doesn't always need to be cash, but if it is cash, it doesn't always need to be a lot. It could be a few dollars. In some cases, that can go a long way. You want to have some reciprocation going on, and not just a constant flow of asking for additional information. Okay? Part of the goal, typically, part of what wants to be achieved by community-based organization, is to lower the barriers to accessing basic needs, right? Or in an environmental area, lower the barrier to be able to come in and participate in cleanup services, or whatever the case is. But it's about lowering barriers. And the more data that is required to be collected, the higher the barrier is, right? So there's a bit of an art to it. And this is a conversation that needs to be had among the grant writer as they engage in, writing grants that will require additional reporting and data collection, and the program team. That's number one. Number two, an important note is that data comes in many different forms, and we can break that down into quantitative data and qualitative data. Numbers do tell a part of the story, a major part of the story, but personal experiences paint a fuller picture in many cases. Quantitative data like attendance, test scores, service usage are wonderful, but they are kind of just the baseline, right? Everybody expects that you're going to be able to survey and gather quantitative information. Qualitative data, stories, testimonials, personal feedback, compilations of these things, they add depth. They add meaning. They add the humanization. They add the emotional component. When you can show both the facts and the real life impact through quantitative and qualitative data, you're going to give grant makers a much clearer picture and a way more compelling point of view. Showing that 85 participants, for example, improved in school is great, but even more powerful will be the story if you pair that with a few testimonials of students who transformed their life because of your intervention. They transformed their outlook on education because of your intervention. Okay, so this is like a little checklist. If you're a grant writer and you're popping in data, quantitative data into your grant application, you should have a little bug in the back of your mind, a little birdie that's saying, What about the story? What about the testimonial? What about the qualitative information? What about bringing this into a human element, right? Always be trying to pair these things together. That's going to improve your grant writing tremendously. And if you can't do it all in one little box with your character count limits, then make a note, do a count at the end and say, okay, I've just drafted my first draft of the application. I've got 23 mentions of quantitative data and 5 mentions of qualitative data. Maybe it doesn't need to be 50-50, but that's a heavy left brain oriented grant application, and you're going to miss that emotional connection, and you're going to miss that data. You're leaving data out. Okay, so how do you collect more data? Think about data not just in terms of surveys. Think about it as conversations. Okay, an anecdotal anonymous conversation can be a data point. Okay, if you are a grant writer and your program management team struggles to get qualitative data, get on out there and start talking with people. Okay, it doesn't take that much time to build a little bit of trust with just a bit of confidence and good personality and hello, how you doing? Just wanted to say, hey, how's everything going here? Right? Tell me a little bit more. How often have you come? We're really trying to figure out ways that we can improve. Can you tell us about ways you can improve? Do you go anywhere else that is really helpful? We would love to benchmark best practices, right? We want to get better and we want your help to help us get better, right? These sorts of questions. That's an anecdotal conversation. You don't even have to take notes while they're talking. You can walk away and do a voice memo on your phone. Say, I just talked with this client. Here's a few things that I learned. Boop, it's done. Send yourself an email, put it on a project management board. You've got a data point right there. You do that, a couple dozen times over the course of several months. You've got statistically significant data, right? It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's way better than having nothing. And collecting this qualitative data is something that will benefit you tremendously. Okay, so that's number 2, is understanding that balance. Number 3 is leveraging technology appropriately for data collection. It's if you're still using paper and pens and taking surveys that way, that's actually fine. And in many cases, that's the best solution. But for the most part, if you have built up trust, if you have built an email list, if you have built a text message list, if you are adding value on that text message and email list to the point where you see your open rates and your click-through rates increasing, if you're using email marketing best practices, if you're doing these things and adding value, then there's going to be more of a desire for people to open their emails. When you have an ask in your email, you want people to have built up that desire that they will not just delete your email or unsubscribe from your email. Okay, but if you do those things, primarily text and email. Of course, you can also make phone calls and you can also do other things through mobile apps and push notifications. But generally, if we're just talking, kind of utilization of the efficiencies of technologies, we're talking about text and email, then, developing an online survey system, tying that in with a CRM to, house the data. Oh my gosh, it's a tremendous time saver. Right? So even if you don't get the 85% participation rate that you would if you were out there in person, and you only get a 25% participation rate, you might only be putting in 5% of the effort. Right? Now you need to balance these things for biases. Of course, if you're going to utilize technology, then you're going to be, implicitly self-selecting only the clients that have technology, right? Which may be skewing younger, which may be skewing higher income, which may be skewing particular technical acumen that is correlated with less of a need for a particular service. Like there's reasons why random sampling is important. And when you only do text and you only do emails, you might get some skewed results. Again, better than no results, but you need to control for those things. The CR system is important so you can track everything together and pull out reports. There's a variety of different CRMs that will do that. Most of the time, if you're new to surveying, you're doing it sort of irregularly. You don't necessarily need to tie it to a CRM. You can bring it into its own little program. There's dozens of surveying programs, including Google and ones that are free that do the trick in terms of just getting the information back to you and getting it into a spreadsheet. But you need to really think about the balance, because you can do in-person data collection, pen and paper or on a tablet, and you can do emails, and you can do text, and you can have all these things sort of talking together at the same time. Through that, you should be able to get statistically significant information that you can use in your grants, and it doesn't take that much effort. The effort that it takes to do those things are in the trust building and the value adding. So as a grant writer, it is maybe not your responsibility, but it would be important to you to be constantly reminding your program management team, how are you adding value? How are you adding value in the interventions outside of just what is required in terms of the intervention? How are you adding value in your communications, email, text, phone call? Are you always adding value? Are you brightening somebody's day? Are you offering to refer them to other resources? What are the ways that you can add value, so that when it comes to the time where you have to ask them for something, there's more of a feeling that they will want to reciprocate? Okay. In the description below, there's 7 additional tips on collecting better data on your beneficiaries. By doing these things, thinking about these 3 plus the additional 7 that are in that download, you're going to have a much better data set to work with. Comment below if you have issues with data collection. I would love to help. Thank you so much for jumping in, and I'll see you in the next video.